All right, Beyond the Gates fans. Hey, we are here. Number 12, a dozen episodes of this great show. And I got to say, initially, I was going to give this episode kind of like a 7. I thought it was okay. But when I thought about it and rewatched the scene, well, actually, no. When I first started watching, I'm like, okay, this is a decent episode. It's all right. I'm thinking like around a 7, 7.5. But the scene that solidified me giving this episode a 9 out of 10 was the editing that was done to blend in both Danny and Bill doing interviews in order to, maintain their reputation and dignity in order to avoid slander. It truly felt like a well thought out scene. But in reality, the ending of the episode has me thinking, man, Danny ain't done. Danny ain't done. Danny ain't done. So this episode has some interesting dynamics because it really did foreshadow things that I feel will be coming in the near future. Also, Naomi apologizing, admitting she was doing too much. That's another reason this episode got stellar scores from me, because I was so mad. Like, I love Naomi, but this whole drama thing is ridiculous. But then I thought about it. It's a dang soap opera, so it's going to be soapy even if it's a bit dingy at times. So I'm loving the fact that Naomi finally came around, because I'm with Jacob. As soon as he was packing that bag, I'm like, you know what, bump this. I got way too much on my plate. I'm not dealing with this after I'm not going to be dragged or penalized for doing my job. So before going forward in the video, please take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like it. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit subscribe and hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Also, don't forget, BET is airing episodes of The Oval. I believe it's a limited time. Actually, let me double check on that to get an exact amount. So, the episodes and the time frame. So in case you don't watch it live, you know when you can eventually see it. Okay, I looked it up. I saw 3 different articles on this, but I chose Michael Fairman TV, but I did read all 3 briefly to get an idea so I can make sure I give the right information. So essentially, as of right now, which could mean in the future they might air more, but as of right now, BET is going to air the first 10 episodes for the next 2 weeks at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Additionally, you can catch episodes on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, so they might play them during the weekend as well. But that's a great way to do it. And look, hey, I get it. Times are tough. Money is tight, so not everybody will have a few extra dollars. But if you are able to pinch out enough coin to get a Paramount Plus account, I would highly recommend it, just because they have all the episodes up there right now. I told my mom about it, and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to watch on BET when I can, and over the weekend, if I had the time, I'll try to get on Paramount Plus and watch the episodes, because, the people at work and even the people at Food Line, I went in there, they're talking about the show, and I say, yeah, look, you got to get on it. Like, look, you tried to tell me to watch Saints and Sinners and Greenleaf back in the day when they first started, and heck, my channel could have been in a different, just a whole different ballpark if I had done it like she told me to. But I'm telling her, I'm like, look, you need to watch this show. But yeah, if you can watch it, find some way to watch it legally. Get these ratings up. I mean, ratings are great now, but let's make this show thrive. And not just because it's a black show, well, a predominantly black cast and whatnot, but because it's a genuinely good show. All right, so that's my PSA. Let's jump into this review. Now, we got Nicole prepping for her interview on the local news, and this is in preparation for the award ceremony that I believe should be taking place Thursday or Friday of this week. And I mean our time, like in episodes, what is it, 12, 13? Yeah, in episode 14 or 15, this is when the award ceremony should be. Eva is, brought her morning beverage and whatnot. So, oh no, actually, I got to run because I got to be at my parents' house for this interview, and I'm just hoping it goes well. And that shifts gears over to Anita and Vernon, who are hoping for the best that, hey, you know what? Me and you, we're going to take the tough questions. And Danny, I don't think she's ready to, be in front of the camera in terms of answering these sort of questions. With everything with all the craziness going on, let's celebrate Nicole. And that's a good thing because given all the circumstances, it feels good for them to pay attention to their other daughter for a change. And we shift gears over to Bill's office, and Haley is upset because Bill is also doing an interview. And simply put, this is an effort to avoid the Duprees trying to spin things and place him in a negative light. And while I get it, while Haley's like, look, it's over and whatnot, Bill, you could say what you look. I feel like you could say he's doing this to keep the game going, but in reality, he makes a good point. If the Duprees are allowed to spin this, they're going to make him, even though it's a Nicole interview, this is no doubt going to be a situation where they will be asked questions about Danny's recent viral fame, and then they'll use that to slander his name. And, you know, while Haley is all, why do you what do you care so much about what people think? She fails to realize that, well, he's the face of the firm, and a bad reflection on him in the public eye could also mean he might have a bad reputation with future clients, which at the end of the day could freak up the money. And that's not a good thing, because later in the episode, we have Tom talking with Caroline about the exact same thing. Caroline's like, I can't believe Bill's doing this. I mean, I wish they could just focus on their happiness and go on their honeymoon. But he makes a good point. Like, again, hey, we got to save face, or, you know, the firm could suffer because of it. Now, from there, you got, man, I hate to say this, but you know, let me talk about the interview first, then I'll talk about Naomi. Now, the parents, you know, decide on the game plan. Nicole's excited about it, and Danny promises her sister, look, this isn't about me. I'm going to let you shine. I'm just going to sit here, do my thing. Chelsea and Naomi eventually show up, and Linda, the reporter, comes over, and she's excited to be there. It's like, okay, I'll have my camera crew set up. And we cut away to the diner where we see Mona, Leslie, and Ashley's mom. And Leslie's in high spirits. Obviously, we know why, because of her recent confrontation with Ted, and also her dramatic meeting with Nicole. So, you know, she's excited about that. Everybody's having a good mood. She's excited about that. Mona's excited to have a day off. Because remember, with all this, just the drama going on with the Dupree family, the overtime helping Nicole get ready for her award ceremony, Laura's accident, she needs a day of what she say, retail therapy. So, you know, they're pretty much having a good time hanging out. Now, in the midst of things, we go over to Eva, who is glancing over at Ted's family photo. And it's an interesting edit where we see where she was included in the photo too. In her mind, it's like, wow, that's what my family could have looked like. So then she ends up chatting with Ted a bit, and he asks about if she has any siblings, because he mentions, like, oh yeah, you know, I always wondered what it'd be like to grow up with siblings, or have a sister where we fight over things like boys, or, you know, do each other's hair and whatnot. And the conversation shifts to Andre and how, you know, he grew up in a situation like that. He lost his dad and whatnot, but he was still treated like family. And as the conversation progressed, yet again, you can see episode by episode, Ted is slowly or unknowingly knocking down the walls of negativity that Leslie has instilled in her daughter's heart about her father for her entire life, because she's truly realizing Ted is not the scum that Leslie told her that he was. Told her that he was. But keep in mind, it seems that despite knowing Leslie, he doesn't know about Eva. So at this point, she's probably like, wow, so I feel like maybe if he did know about me, he wouldn't, you know, have acted like he didn't know me. He genuinely doesn't know me, which is good. I like that. But that leads to, you know, a little bit of a confrontation between the two later in the episode, which I'll get to momentarily. So, as we get to the interview, we have Bill. Let's go over to the Bill interview first. So, he is making a point to say, look, I am open and I am willing to answer any and all questions pertaining to the situation that occurred at me and Haley's wedding. And the reporters asked the pointed question of, like, so what, did you invite your ex-wife in order to humiliate her? And he's like, no, I did that as a show of solidarity, that despite us being divorced and whatnot, we still have kids, and despite the drama, we can still move forward in peace for the sake of our daughters. And he's like, and that's why I insisted the rest of the Dupree family and members of the community came to be like moral support and emotional support. That way she wouldn't feel alone. Which again, it's just, if Haley had just had the coworkers that she thought would come, because even though she wanted a big wedding, things would not have turned out like this, because she just wants to, go on her honeymoon. But with all the drama and whatnot, and Bill holding this, this interview, it's probably not going to happen. So over at the Dupree estate, the interview was actually going well, with Nicole and her parents. But then Linda throws a curveball. It's like, well, we're having a wonderful time learning about your daughter's amazing accomplishments in the field of psychology and mental health, but your other daughter has also made the news recently. And before she can even go further, Anita and Vernon shut it down. It's like, look, that's a closed matter. We've said everything we need to say about, the situation. And Linda brings up the fact about, well, in terms of Bill, he has been saying things such as a deterioration of Danny's mental health and emotional stability, because being a reporter, she has to divide her the microphone in her ear, so she's getting news as it's happening, basically saying, hey, at this very moment Bill's holding a press conference of his own. So Danny actually swoops in, and I gotta admit, like I said, this scene was really, really good. While Bill is slandering the Duprees and Danny's words are actually the opposite. It's like, we were the victims. Danny's like, no, I was the victim of Bill's, deception and deceit. And I should have never put my daughters and the rest of my family in a position where I humiliated them and dragged the Dupree name through the mud. But regardless of that, it's out of my system now. I've, went to, the jail. I went to the jailhouse and everything. And yes, they were kind enough to drop the charges, and I'm ready to put everything behind me. So while Bill was pouring his heart out, in that interview, just, making it clear, like, yes, we were the victims. For months, I've been trying to make things, comfortable for Haley, but my ex-wife has made it miserable. You got Danny just on screen, that was the highlight of the episode. It truly was. As much as I love Naomi coming to her senses, that the editing between the Bill and Danny interview was just fantastic. So from there, you have Chelsea and Naomi congratulating their mom on a job well done. And Danny's like, yeah, once again, I'm sorry for everything over the past year, which makes sense, because the past year, not just the 6 months it took for the divorce to be finalized, but, from the affair, the breakup, Bill moving out, then the engagement, then the wedding, and all the shenanigans at the wedding. She does say, look, I hope this hasn't cost you anything, like, haven't you had time to make up with your fine cop husband? And Naomi's still mad, but thankfully Danny's like, look, don't let your father interfere with the marriage you have, because Jacob is a fine man, a fine cop who was just doing his job, which was so good to hear. And Chelsea, grabs her sister's leg, like, hey, just come on, sis. So I like that. It was good to get somebody, to bring her back down to earth, because that scene at the beginning of the episode had me heated. I'm like, come on, Naomi, you tripping. So Anita and Vernon pull Danny aside, and she apologizes for once again surprising them. Because this is the second time there's been first it was the press conference at the country club. This time it was the interview at their home for Nicole. So this was the second time they're like, Danny, stay on the sidelines, but she swooped in anyway. But she did an excellent job. And I love the fact that she literally winged it and was able to change the narrative from what Bill's interview was doing, which I thought was very good. So, she's just like, look, I'm just glad to, move forward and put things behind me. Now, over at Nicole's office, Eva found her bracelet from earlier, and she's excited that the interview went well and that the award ceremony is right around the corner. Now, the best part about the interview that went on, the dual interview, was the fact that in the diner, you got Leslie, Ashley's mom, and Mona. It's like, hey, could you turn the TV up? So they're overhearing it. And then the moment that Danny came into the interview, Ashley's mom's like, you get him, Danny. I thought that was great. I love the switch arounds of the episode because, yeah, we got the life behind the gates, you know, the rich, the bougie and whatnot. I love the moments where we shift gears and go to the diner where you just have average folks looking at the inside of the gates from the outside, and it's like you know, us average everyday people looking at the news, looking at the internet, at the latest celebrity gossip and whatnot, or trending topics. So I like the way that this soap opera, a lot of people I've seen online have described it as realistic compared to a lot of other soaps. Like, we get to hear real songs in it, we get to see different things like text and FaceTiming. It just makes it feel more grounded, especially, well, not just grounded, but current. And I think that's something that adds a little flair to it. So from there, we go over to Kat talking with Chelsea, because apparently there is a potential investor in their purse line, but Chelsea wants to do it, you know, without any sort of outside assistance. And Kat's like, well, it would be foolish just to not miss the meeting. So let's just see what, you know, what's going on tomorrow or something, and then we could decide from there. So they actually sit down, and Chelsea, you know, was kind of badgered by Kat to tell her about her personal life because of the fact that, you know, you cancel plans with me so we can celebrate tonight because, look, I'm missing my mom's award ceremony so we can work on our business. But Chelsea has another meetup with the couple she's been with. So she doesn't want to put a term to her sexual desires. Yeah, she's like, I don't want to be labeled. It's just like, I like what I like, and that's what it is. What about you? It's like, well, no. I mean, I'm just a Michelle looking for my Barack. And apparently this whole poly, I forgot the term, but basically, this isn't the first time Chelsea has been involved with a couple before. So it's like, I see what it is. So from there, Kat gets a call from Tom, the lawyer that works at Bill's firm. And he really likes Kat. Apparently, you know, they went on that date after they met up at the wedding, and he'd like to see her again soon, but she's headed out of town. But when I come back, I can cook for you. And it's like, oh, that'll be great. Yeah, I'll cook dinner. We can get to know each other a bit more. And speaking of which, Bill has a brief conversation with Tom, you know, about how the interview went well, and he'll handle any cases that Bill has while he's off, you know, in Italy enjoying his honeymoon. And from there, you know, he talks about the fact that he met Kat at the wedding, and it's like, look, if it's a conflict of interest, and Bill's like, no, don't let me in my feud with my ex-family stop you from living your life, but good luck messing with those Duprees. And we cut over to Haley talking with Caroline, who's excited about the honeymoon as well. So Ted and Nicole are actually chatting about, you know, the fact that Bill's shenanigans have caused a rift between Naomi and Jacob, and they're looking for a way to help. You know, they're thinking like, well, maybe we could just talk to them about our wedding, and like hardships and not, we were able to make it through a lot of things. And I love how the family does care, because it's like, look, that's our niece, and we just want to make sure everything is good, because Jacob was put in a very difficult decision. So I just love that everybody is, you know, looking out for everybody else. But while they're embracing, you got Ted thinking about the encounter he had with Leslie at the hospital. Yikes. Which cuts away to the diner, because Eva actually goes there to meet with her mom and discusses how, you know, she had a conversation with Ted today. And Eva's like, yeah, you know, we were talking about, you know, just families in general, and asking questions about like growing up without a dad and everything. And the funny thing is, Leslie is like, wait, don't put yourself in a situation like that. Like, don't let your emotions get the better of you. And Eva rightfully clapped back, like, and what about you? And that scheme from yesterday almost blew your cover. And most importantly, I could have lost my other parent if you had fallen off the roof of the hospital. And it's like, oh, I have a plan, little girl. Don't worry about it. So yeah, you could definitely see the cracks in the relationship between these two, especially when Eva is told, like, look, you should learn from me. Do not trust Ted. So yeah, at some point she is, and I feel like that's when the dynamic between Eva and her mom are going to completely flatline. So after that, Vernon and Anita discuss Danny. On the one hand, they are extremely proud of the way she handled herself, but Anita is actually worried because it's like, the more I think about it, maybe this whole thing with Bill and Haley did more damage than we can, see. Because yeah, she's always been a wild child, but looking at her recent antics, maybe she does need to talk with somebody. Vernon's like, oh no, she'll be fine. And Anita has a look on her face like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm glad. It's just one of those things where, yeah, if your child pulls out a gun, I think some questions need to be asked. And I think, what was it, several episodes ago, actually the episode last week where Danny spoke at that press conference at the country club, Nicole said, hey, I got some therapist friends who could like help, you could talk, like, you need to talk with somebody, Danny, like, you need to talk with somebody. And I think that's something really necessary because as the episode ends, you have Bill and Haley. Like, Haley's excited, like, I'm going to freshen up, the limo's outside or the car's outside to take us to the airport. And then Bill, goes on his phone and unfortunately sees that his interview didn't do what it was supposed to do, because Danny's the one making headlines and is basically in favor of her. And then we switch gears to the country club and Danny's looking at her phone. She's listening in on Bill's interview. And despite, saying what he said about her and the Duprees, she wins. And she goes so far as to, hear him talk about the honeymoon in Italy and him and Haley kissing. Well, this is something she didn't like. She actually ends up dropping her phone on purpose in her drink, calls for another one, and just says, leave that one there. I'll just, watch it break. So she watches as the video footage just, fizzles out because her phone is wet. And then that's the end of the episode. But this is kind of bad because I'm like, okay, she literally pulled an acrimony at that wedding. Lord have mercy. What if she gets on a plane and goes to Italy too? Because you could just tell by the end of this episode, she's still looking for vengeance. All right, so now I'll talk about the stuff that I really wanted to talk about, the Naomi and Jacob stuff. So Naomi is still mad because, she's in her feelings. And I love how he didn't stand down. It's like, Naomi, you penalizing me for doing my job. I treated your mother with respect. I made sure she was handled with dignity and care from the time we put those handcuffs to her to the time they let her go when the charges were dropped. Oh, and you want a gold star for that? And I'm thinking, yet again, had it been some other cop trying to get 15 minutes of fame, this entire scenario would have blown up. So she claims it was a wrongful arrest, and you're absolving your mother of any responsibility. She was slinging a gun around, meaning to harm people, Naomi. Come on. So she's just being completely unreasonable. Oh, so what if it was Rosa Parks? Did you arrest her too for sitting, refusing to give her a seat in the bus? And yet again, Jacob makes a good point. You're being completely unfair. Oh, so what if it was me, huh? If it was me that was toting the gun around, would you arrest me? That's not fair. Again, he will be doing his job. She is just looking for any excuse to be mad. Okay, so we do learn that this really has to do with the fact that in the past, and I believe this takes place right after Bill and Haley announced their engagement, and, Jacob and Naomi are talking about it. It's like, so how long did you know? Like, basically she's asking if Jacob saw any signs of any sort of, like, I don't know, deception or an affair that Bill was having. And being a cop, he can read people. So Naomi is like, I'm trying to learn you, and, you don't tell me certain things. But he makes a point where it's like, well, hey, you're a lawyer and whatnot. So, when it comes to our professions, there are certain things we can't tell each other due to the oaths that we took. So there you go. But the thing is, Jacob does say, look, to be honest, I knew something was off about your dad the day I met him. Look, I'm a cop and I'm trained to read people so I can utilize the weaknesses in order to gain information from them. Now, The sad part is I do see part of myself in Bill. We both took oaths, but reading people, I do it for the sake of justice. He does it for the sake of himself. I do like this bit of intrigue or information about Jacob because it goes back to what Naomi said in week 1 to her sister. I've always admired our dad. I wanted to be just like him. But the thing is, as I grew up, I learned that he used the law to his own will. Like he bend the law to his own means and, own gain. And I didn't want to be a part of that. So I chose to, pursue law in my own lane to uphold the law, not for myself, but for the sake of others. And it turns out she knew Jacob was a man of integrity when they first met because he would be on the opposing side of cases where, she was trying to represent a client, but he was a man that followed things by the book. So her thing is being in a position due to the lack of trust she has for her father. That's bled into her having an issue of being able to trust another man, with Jacob being the first one she could open up to. However, given recent events, that's why she feels like he chose her dad, instead of her. But he makes a point to say, look, when it comes down to our job and family, we both have to do our jobs. But hey, don't worry about it. It's not like anybody in your family is going to get arrested, like your dad, the civil rights activist, and your mom, the supermodel. So we don't have to worry about our jobs and families. Those worlds will never collide. Yet they did. So over at his job during the day, he meets up with his new partner, who is an elite detective, a legendary detective. However, he basically puts Jacob in his place. What's that expression? Never meet your heroes. He pretty much says that, hey, if you thought we were going to be buddy and whatnot, yeah, wrong idea. Simply put, we're partners. We go out in the field. You keep your nose out of my business and we're going to be fine. So he even gets on Jacob for being, staying late, saying like, did the lieutenant approve overtime? Like, look, if you're having some issues at home with your wifey being mad at you for arresting, your mother-in-law, nah, they ain't gonna fly. I need you home and rested because what you got going on in your personal life can't affect you on the job, because then that messes with my life in the field and I can't have that. So we get something like smart ass. So Jacob has a chip on his shoulder because his hero isn't who he thought he was. So the last thing to talk about here, I'm almost done, people. I'm almost done. Naomi comes home and sees Jacob packing his bag. Wait, what are you doing? Look, I'm not sleeping on the couch again, all right? I'm not, because I got to deal with this new asshole at work. I need to be at full strength, and I'm just going to go. You don't have to do that. For what, Naomi? I talk, you don't listen. You're mad at me for doing my job. I can't have it. So Naomi just shuts it down, and then she starts crying, and then she talks about how, after my dad, I just didn't know who to trust, and I just felt like, after talking with my mom, I realized I was too hard on you, and they make up, and that's good to see. I honestly don't have too much to say about it, because I've done like 2 extensive videos talking about the scenario, and yeah, it was forced drama, but luckily Naomi came to her senses. But it's just one of those things where I feel like, Naomi, trust your man. And I feel bad because as much as I don't want to, put my trust in Jacob, keep in mind, I was giving Ted the benefit of the doubt at the beginning of the show, but now we learned he had an affair and paid Dana to go away. And now look at what happened. He has a whole daughter he doesn't know about. So Jacob, I agree he did his job, and I hope he is one of the good ones. Not just a cop, but as a man and a loyal husband. So with that being said, solid episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.